Chapter 13. From the parking lot, Randy called out, "How's it going, Johnny boy?" "Fine," John said as he proceeded to his apartment and unlocked the door. "And how was work?" Randy asked, directly behind him. "It was work." John stepped inside. "Aren't you home early?" "Yeah." John threw his briefcase down the long hall. Well, what?" Randy stood in the entryway. "Well, are you lost?" "No." "This seems a little out of character. I mean, I haven't seen you in weeks, and here I've come to accept you for who you are. I've learned that you live elsewhere and you only come here to sleep, and now you've thrown me this curve." John dropped his keys and wallet on an end table. "Well, maybe I spent too much time at work. Today I realized I didn't need to be there, so I came home. It's not a big deal." "No." Randy scratched at his curls. "This is big. This is so big that perhaps, dare I say that perhaps, something might be wrong." The old couch sagged as John sat down and unlaced his shoes. "The only thing that's wrong is that I don't know what I'm doing." "Well, I can help you." Randy shut the door and tilted his head to watch John. "Let's see. Right now, what you're doing is taking off your shoes. Now you're leaning back, resting. This is a new thing for you, but I believe in you. Yes, you can learn to relax." "Randy, I'm serious." A sigh slipped from John's lips. "I've made a mistake." "With what?" Randy asked slowly. "Your work? I thought I could help people, but I never thought there would be all these rules and regulations and politics." Randy chuckled and nodded. "Politics." "Somewhere I made a wrong turn with my life." John tilted his head up and stared at the ceiling. "Now I'm just trying to decide how far back that mistake was." "No," Randy said firmly, causing John to look at him. "This is what you've always wanted. In fact, I quote," Randy cleared his throat and waved his arm in a theatrical gesture, "my piece is taken from the life of John Sanders. All I have ever wanted to do is rescue a maniacal individual from the deep, dark depths of insanity." His voice fluctuated. "If I could help succor and mitigate their lives, then the efforts of my existence have not been fruitless." A chuckle escaped John. "That's your rendition of me?" "I have an encore performance. I'd love to share it." "No." John raised up a palm. "Please, save it." "Fine, but you've no idea what you're missing." Randy collapsed onto a chair only to give John, who was rubbing his temples, a serious look. "Are you okay?" "I'm just not cut out for this." "All right." Randy crossed his legs and rubbed his chin as if mimicking a therapist. "Tell me what's going on." "It's work." Randy continued to rub his chin and nodded. "Of course it's work." Then he gave John a humorous grin. "What else would it be?" "It's important," John said. "I've got this patient, and she's great. She's trying to change, and she's come a long way." Randy uncrossed his legs and relaxed into his chair. "Sounds good." "It is good." So I started making all the arrangements, set up the paperwork, made some phone calls, put her in an outpatient training course. You know, I was preparing her for what was ahead. I thought I was doing great. But then administration got in the way? "Exactly." John nodded. "How did you know?" Randy spread his arms out. "Welcome to the real world, Sanders. Take me, for example. I profess to be a part of education, but because of how the school operates, I've learned there's thorny stuff growing everywhere. If I step into a patch, suddenly it's impossible for me to step out, and I'm not allowed to do my job." "That's the thing. I'm excited about this progress, so I mention it to Dr. Landerson, thinking I'm sharing great news with him." Randy's index finger pointed at John. "But you were wrong." "Yeah, he laid into me, scolded me." Randy shrugged. "Typical." "I couldn't believe I was being reprimanded. According to him, I'd stepped out of line. That this type of decision and the action that follows comes only after he's consulted. It's all about power. They want to stay in control. They're your superiors, and if you show you can actually think without their assistance, they might be out of a job. No, John sat up. Leaders are important. Operations need leaders. And if he wants to be right there making the decisions to get her out, fine. But that's not the case. Are you sure? He spent a half hour making sure I understood my responsibility was only to make a request for action. Then if he agreed with me, he would submit our request to Dr. Gravers. Then after Gravers' consideration and approval, we'd be able to proceed. This is the way things are run. Randy waved a palm across the room. Might as well get used to it. Someday you'll be at the top and can manipulate the peons below. No, I don't want to be. You say that now. Wait till you taste power. It's not about a power struggle. John leaned forward, his voice raising in intensity. It's about my patient. She's ready for change, and it's time we support her in her request. Hey, I know. Believe me. Randy pointed at his chest. I've been there before. Once I had a student who deserved to fail, but the principal told me I had to pass him because the kid's father was on the school board. It's nasty stuff. It makes me sick. After my conversation with Dr. Landerson, he asked to sit in on the team's meeting. Team? The staff involved in her therapy. John glossed over his words. Everyone involved discussed her goals and where she's at, what improvements she's made. So how was it? Awful. The man didn't just sit in, he dictated the entire show, wanted to make it clear that she still needed to be at the facility, dwelt on all her weaknesses and shortcomings, fed doubt into everyone's minds. If anyone made a positive comment, he would turn it around and question our patient's ability and our judgment. It was a disaster. Sounds like it. It left me with no hope, John said slowly. In the organization? Yes, but even worse. John glanced around his apartment. A plant looked dry and on the brink of dying. I started doubting this patient. I felt robbed of the trust and hope I had had in her. Randy shook his head. Kills your motivation. Well, and it means I'm starting to doubt myself. John stood and headed into the kitchen. After the team meeting, he called out behind him, Dr. Landerson took me aside and told me that we cannot cure the disease. That's not our job. He found a pitcher and filled it with water. Really? He heard Randy say from the other room. John headed over to the plant. He said we can alleviate pain and suffering and can offer solutions. Water flowed into the soil as he tipped the pitcher over the plant. But we still need to admit our limitations, not only to the patients, but also to ourselves. Ouch. Yeah. He also told me I needed to have more realistic expectations. He set the half-empty pitcher on an end table. Could he have a point? No. John sat again on the couch. Definitely not. He holds her back and stops anyone who tries to push her along. He's classified her in a way so that she'll never be able to prove herself. Then don't listen to administration. Randy gave an insignificant wave of the hand. They're evil. Okay, John said. But what if he's right? You just said he wasn't. Yeah, but he does have knowledge and experience. John leaned back against the couch. There's a reason he's in that position. Complete nonsense. Well, the truth is, John shifted forward, his hands now clutched together, leaned against his knees. He looked up at Randy. A few weeks ago, a previous patient killed herself. Oh. No one talks about it now, he said slowly. Dr. Landerson won't even bring it up. I see. John leaned back again. However, today the patient wanted to talk to me again about leaving the hospital. What am I supposed to say to her? Sounds tough. Exactly. Now the rest of the team supports Dr. Landerson, believes his reasoning. They don't even want to discuss a target date for her departure. They're requiring perfection from her first. Perfection. Before she can even begin progressing. Should they be concerned? John lifted his head up and looked back at the struggling plant. The previous patient had suicidal tendencies. but this patient has no record of that. What's happening is that this staff claims to be there to help her recover, but they're eliminating opportunities for her to try. Instead, she's being punished for another person's actions. He shook his head at Randy. It's not fair. All right, John. Randy spoke with renewed energy. So you fight back. I'm not sure of what I need to do. It's simple. You've got two options. Randy raised a finger at John. If you value the opinion of your boss, kiss up to him, make him happy, support him, build up his ego. However, if you smell something rotting, you need to go higher. He pointed up. Go higher. John gave him a puzzled look. There will be days when you'll go to your work and your boss is stuck in the mud. He shifted his finger to point down at the floor. And he thinks you should come bathe with him. He rose his finger only to shake it back and forth. Don't jump in. Go talk to the head. John rolled his eyes. Nice analogy. Randy smiled, folded his arms, and leaned back. I thought so. Well, I can't talk to the head. Why not? You don't just schedule a chat with the man. Randy shrugged. You're not asking to become the man's best friend, or even to go to lunch with him. You're looking for assistance in getting things worked out correctly. It's simple. Just requires guts. I don't know. Well, if you want to get rid of the hypocrisy, you've got to set things straight. Randy shot his hand out. Okay, maybe you're right. Although, on the other hand, he turned his palm up. You haven't even been there a year. If you're the only one who thinks this, well, maybe you're better off. No, I'm right, John said. They're making a mistake. So I need to listen to you. Well, I am a smart guy. If I want things changed, I need to do something about it. I'll talk to Dr. Graybridge tomorrow.